Most people who look at photographs of women from 1953 assume what they are seeing is a body type, a particular kind of figure, narrow waist, curved hip, that specific silhouette the decade seems to have produced effortlessly. It was not a body type, it was architecture. Every woman dressed twice, once in what the world could see, once in what made the visible layer behave the way it did. Shirley, Minneapolis, 1952. She owned 4 dresses. She owned 9 items of foundation. By the time she put on the dress was already finished. 9 things. Here is what they were, what each one did, and what happened when they quietly left. Number 9. The cotton undershirt. The first thing she put on was the thing no one ever saw and no one ever discussed. Not a fashion item. A functional layer, a sleeveless cotton undershirt from Carter's or Hanes, fitted at the waist, worn directly against the skin. It existed for one reason, to absorb what the body produces and keep it away from everything above. Shirley's drawer held 6 of them. She rotated them through the week the way she rotated towels. They cost 39 cents a piece at the 5 and dime in 1952, and they lasted 3 years. The function they performed is now sold back as moisture-wicking technology in athletic base layers at $35 to $60 per piece. The marketing is different. The mechanism is identical. Keep the moisture moving away from the skin, away from the garment above it, toward a layer designed to handle it. In the 1960s, Dacron and nylon blouses became fashionable. Fashion magazines called the cotton undershirt unfashionable beneath them, too thick, wrong silhouette. Women stopped wearing them. What they discovered was that synthetic fabric against skin produced a different result than cotton. The moisture had nowhere to go. The garment above paid the price. 39 cents. She never thought of it as a choice. Number 8. The half slip. The half slip was specific to skirts. Shirley owned 2. One in white cotton for housework, one in pale gray taffeta for town. It began at the waist and fell to 2 inches below the hem of whichever skirt it was worn under. Its function was not modesty in the usual sense. It was structural. A wool skirt worn directly against a panty girdle will not swing. It will catch. The half slip was the interface that allowed the skirt to move freely, to swing at the knee when she walked, to fall cleanly when she stood still. The taffeta half slip had a particular sound, a dry, soft whisper, with each step that the wearer could hear and no one else could. Shirley's mother had told her that if a woman's clothing was making noise, she could hear herself. She was dressed properly. The half slip also addressed transparency. Cotton, wool, gabardine in the early 1950s were substantial enough that transparency was rarely an issue. The lightweight synthetics that followed the decade were not. The half slip, worn correctly, solved this problem before it existed. It was ahead of the problem by about a decade. At Sears in 1952, a half slip cost $2.50. It lasted 4 years if hand-washed and laid flat to dry. Those were the instructions on the tag and the instructions her mother gave her, which were the same. If you're watching this and recognizing things from your mother's closet, everything in this video and dozens more exactly like it organized by decade and by category is at nostalgiawomen.com. It is what Shirley knew and what her mother knew before her, written down in one place. This is the only mention. Number 7, the full slip. For dresses, Shirley wore the full slip, a single continuous garment from shoulder to knee, fitted through the body and flaring slightly at the hem. The full slip served 3 functions simultaneously. It prevented the outer dress from touching the panty girdle, because a wool or gabardine dress worn directly against a foundation garment will pill at the hip within weeks. It eliminated static charge from wool and synthetic blends, and it gave the dress a moving surface to swing against, so the dress fell correctly rather than wrapping. There was one more function that is now completely lost. In 1952, a woman owned 4 dresses and expected to wear each one for 5 to 7 years. The dress could not afford to wear out. The slip prevented the inner surface of the dress, the surface that generates wear, from contacting anything abrasive. The dress wore against the slip. The slip could be replaced for $1.50. The dress could not. Shirley knew which slip went under which dress, the way she knew which pan went on which burner. It was not guesswork. It was maintenance. A full slip from Sears in 1952 cost $3. The dress it protected cost $18. If your mother's drawer had any of these, the cotton undershirt, the gray taffeta slip, the one that went under the good dress, hit subscribe before you go anywhere. You already know where this is going. Number 6, full fashion stockings. In the morning, Shirley put on her stockings last before the dress and checked the seam in the mirror on the back of the bathroom door. The seam ran straight up the back of each leg from heel to mid-thigh. If it was not straight, she straightened it. This took approximately 45 seconds. She had been doing it every morning since she was 22. The stockings were full-fashioned, knitted flat in panels and seamed together rather than knitted in the round. The seaming was not decorative. Full-fashion stockings were shaped to the leg, narrower at the ankle, wider at the calf, narrower again below the knee. A knitted-in-the-round stocking is the same width from ankle to thigh. A full-fashion stocking is not. Putting them on had a particular feeling, the slight resistance of the shaped fabric settling against the calf, then the pull up to the thigh where the welt met the garter clip. You knew within 3 seconds whether they were sitting right. She could tell without looking down. A pair of full-fashion nylons cost $1.35 at Woolworth's in 1952. They ran. She owned 8 pairs and rotated them. A run in the toe was not a discard. It was a reason to move that pair to the back of the rotation. The seam was also a standard. You checked the seam in the morning. If you checked it and it was straight, the rest of your dressing had been done carefully. It was a diagnostic, not a decoration. In 1959, a hosiery mill in North Carolina put the first commercial pantyhose on American store shelves. They called them panty legs. The marketing copy described it as liberation. No more garter belts, no more separate stockings. One garment. Put it on, leave. What the marketing did not describe was what the one garment replaced. The garter belt held the stocking by pulling downward, the direction the stocking naturally wants to go. Pantyhose pushed it up from the waist against the stocking's natural direction. This is why full-fashion stockings held smooth for 8 hours under a garter belt, and why pantyhose bags at the knee by noon. The structured girdle, which had given the skirt something to hang from, became redundant. Pantyhose provided enough compression to substitute barely. Within a decade, the entire system, garter belt, seamed stocking, fitted girdle, dissolved, not banned, not discredited, made inconvenient by something easier. The industry called it convenience. What it was, structurally, was the collapse of a system engineered to work correctly, replaced by one that worked adequately. The difference between correctly and adequately is a cm down the back of the leg that a woman checked every morning for 40 years and never had reason to explain. Number 5, the garter belt. Shirley's garter belt came from a fitting room at Dayton's department store on Nicollet Avenue, chosen for her by a woman who had been fitting foundations for 11 years. The fitting was not optional. Not in 1952. A garter belt is 4 suspenders, 2 in front, 2 at the back, attached to a waistband at the top and to the stocking welt at the bottom. The suspenders pull the stocking downward. This matters for a reason almost no one knows anymore. The muscle of the calf contracts with every step. If the stocking is not anchored at the bottom, the contraction will cause it to travel up the leg through the course of a normal day. The garter belt held the stocking against the calf's movement. The panty girdle, if worn at the same time, sat over the garter belt, not under it. This is a detail almost universally gotten wrong in period costume films. The garter belt went on first. The girdle went over it. The reason? To remove the girdle at the end of the day, she did not have to remove the stockings first. The system allowed her to undress in a sensible order. A garter belt at Dayton's in 1952 cost $1.95. The fitting was free. The fitter knew the order. The woman who bought it knew the order. The knowledge of the order was just part of what came with the purchase. When the pantyhose arrived, no one passed on the order. There was nothing left to pass on. Number 2 is the item that every 1950s dress was designed around. Nobody makes it the same way anymore. Stay for it. Number 4, the panty girdle. At 29, Shirley wore a size small. At 44, she wore a size medium. She was fitted for a new panty girdle at the same counter at Dayton's both times, by different women who each said the same things in the same sequence: put both hands on the waistband, pull the front panel flat, step side to side once, then check the hip seam. The panty girdle was not, despite what has been written about it, primarily about achieving a smaller waist. Its function was structural. It gave the dress something to hang from rather than cling to. A dress worn over a body without foundation moves with the body. Every sit, every lean, every step registers in the fabric. A dress worn over a proper girdle does not. The girdle absorbs the movement. The dress stays correct. The secondary function, it held the garter belt in place, prevented the slip from shifting at the hip, and provided a smooth, consistent surface at the waist so the dress waistband sat without bunching. At Marshall Field's or Hudson's in 1952, a fitted panty girdle cost between $4.50 and $8, depending on the weight of the panel. It was not an impulse purchase. It was an appointment. The corsetier who fitted Shirley's first girdle had been trained at a fitting school run by Warner Brothers Lingerie. She knew the difference between a light control panel for everyday dress and a firm control panel for occasion wear. She knew when a woman needed a longer leg to control the thigh and when a short leg was sufficient. She knew which brand ran large in the hip and which ran small. She retired in 1971. The counter she had worked at became a general lingerie rack. The women who replaced her had not been trained at a fitting school. There was no fitting school anymore. Spanx launched in 2000 at $54 per pair. They were not fitted. They were pulled from a bin in the right size and taken to a register. Many women found them helpful. Almost none of them knew what they were substituting for. Number 3, the strapless long line. Shirley owned one. She wore it 3 times a year. Once for the company Christmas dinner, once for her sister's husband's award ceremony, once for a wedding in July 1956 that she still spoke of in 1983. The strapless long-line bra extended from the chest to 2 inches below the natural waist. Warner Brothers Lingerie introduced the Merry Widow in 1952, named after the MGM film of the same year, the one with Lana Turner in the red gown, and it became the standard occasion foundation for the next 12 years. Its function was architectural in the most literal sense. A strapless dress with a fitted bodice cannot hold its shape without a foundation piece that holds itself. A soft strapless bra allows the bodice to relax with the body. A long line does not. It holds the bodice rigid. The dress does not fall because the foundation does not fall. Shirley's strapless long line cost $12.50 at Dayton's in 1955. She had it altered once at the waist and wore it for 9 years. It was in her closet when she died. Her daughter, who found it in 1998, did not know what it was. A comparable strapless bustier today, the garment that performs the same function, costs between $80 and $150. It is rarely sold in fitting rooms. It is rarely fitted at all. Number 1 is not a garment. Number 1 is the understanding that made every garment on this list work. Stay with it. Number 2, the bullet bra. The name was not what Shirley called it. She called it the Maidenform, or the chansonnette, or sometimes just the bra, because in 1952 there was not much else to distinguish it from. The bullet bra's cup was stitched in concentric circles, ring after ring of stitching, spiraling outward from a point, the way you would build a cone from the tip down. The stitching made the cup rigid. The cup held its shape before anyone put it on, and held it after, the same way a bowl holds its shape empty or full. The practical result, the cup held its shape through wear, through washing, through 8 hours of movement. A soft cup, the style that replaced it in the late 1960s, holds the breast. The bullet bra held a shape, and the breast inhabited that shape. The distinction matters because every dress manufactured in the 1950s was cut to accommodate the bullet bra's silhouette. The darts were in specific positions. The bodice was shaped to receive a specific form. Marilyn Monroe wore a Maidenform in 1953. So did the secretary in the office across the street from Shirley's building. The silhouette on the screen and the silhouette at the bus stop shared the same foundation. The bra did not care who wore it. When the bullet bra disappeared, dismissed as aggressive, artificial, and associated with the decade women were moving away from, the dresses of the 1950s became impossible to wear correctly. The bodice hung wrong. The darts pulled. Women who had kept their mother's dresses found that the garments fit perfectly in measurements and incorrectly in silhouette. The dress had been designed for a foundation that was no longer being made. Maidenform chansonnette in 1952, $3.25. It came in 3 colors, white, black, and pink. The pink was for brides. The soft cup that replaced it was softer, more comfortable, more natural looking under certain clothes. It was also the first foundation piece in the system to be chosen for the comfort of the woman rather than the correctness of the dress. That shift from the dress as the standard to the woman's comfort as the standard did not end at the bra. It moved through the entire system. The girdle followed, the slip followed, the garter belt followed. One by one, the pieces that existed to make the dress correct were replaced by pieces that existed to make the woman comfortable. The dresses got worse. No one mentioned the connection. In 1952, the average American woman spent $24 a year on foundation garments. That was roughly 18% of her annual clothing budget. She purchased 3 to 4 pieces per year, each professionally fitted, each expected to last 2 to 3 years. The global shapewear market today is worth over $3 billion. The number is not the point. The point is what changed inside it. In 1952, a woman spent 18% of her clothing budget on the layer beneath everything else. The foundation was the priority. The dress was chosen to work with the foundation she already owned. Today, the foundation is purchased last, chosen by size off a shelf, expected to last less than a year. The dress comes first. The shapewear is purchased to compensate for the dress, to make a garment work that the body and the clothing were not actually built to make work together. Number 1 is not a garment. It is the understanding that made every item on this list something other than a purchase. Number 1, she dressed in order. This is the thing that cannot be bought back because it was never a product. Shirley did not choose a dress and then figure out what went under it. She chose her foundation first, every season. The foundation wardrobe was maintained, fitted, replaced when necessary. The dresses were chosen to work with what she was already wearing beneath them. The order: undershirt, bra, garter belt, girdle, stocking, slip, dress. 7 layers, 1 sequence, always the same. The sequence was not arbitrary. Each piece created the surface the next piece required. The undershirt absorbed the moisture the bra needed to stay clean. The garter belt went on before the girdle so the girdle could come off without removing the stockings. The slip came last before the dress so the dress rode against the slip rather than the foundation. The order was knowledge. The corsetier at Dayton's had given her the order in 1947 when Shirley bought her first proper foundation set. She followed it without thinking for the next 40 years. What disappeared was not the garments. It was the understanding that the dress was the last decision, not the first. That you build a foundation and then you dress on top of it. That getting dressed is a sequence, not a selection. She never thought of this as discipline. It was just dressing. 9 things. Every one of them was under the dress before the dress went on. The silhouette came from this system. Designed, fitted, worn in order, replaced at a fitting counter by a woman who knew what she was replacing and why. The corsetiers retired. The counters became racks. The knowledge left quietly, without announcement. Which of these was in your grandmother's house? The garter belt in the top drawer, the slip on the hook behind the door, the Maidenform in the tissue box. Leave the number in the comments. Subscribe. There is more of this waiting for you.